All right, good morning and welcome in. Here we are, guys. It is another episode of House Edge Live with John from ProCraps or Casino Gaming Central, and it's a Monday, and we're back at it again. Sorry about Friday, but I suffered an injustice here at the house on Friday. I'm not sure what happened, but one of those things where my computer decided to do the automatic upgrade in a little bit less than normal. So anyway, let me know what you're seeing. I got another problem here too. I just noticed something weird. What the hell's happening with my camera? Let's see. That's not what I want. Something else is happening here with this. Hold on a second. Let me go to here. No. Aha. There we go. See that weird rotation thing? Look at that. Now I'm straight. I do it like looking down the thing. I'm like, what the hell's going on? There's a weird echo at the mic. Oh, I see. This one here is gone. How's that? Is that better? Is that echo gone now? So yeah, I think we might be okay here. Is it clipping? Is it loud? I don't know. Something's jacked. Like I said, I had to rebuild and reinstall every piece of software yesterday, so I don't really know how it's going. Anyway, let's just give it a shot. We'll see what happens. Hope you all had a good weekend. It was an interesting football weekend, wasn't it? For those of you who watch NFL playoffs, it was it's like I hate to say it's like they scripted it, but every game was great. Every game was close. They were all good. Last minute finishes. Pretty good weekend, except for the Birds, of course, getting beat. But that team, I'm sure D-Jan, if he's out here in the audience, will talk about it too. But that team, my goodness gracious, they just didn't have it all year. It was one of those things where they were vanilla. I think somebody described it. That last play was their year in a synopsis, right? They looked like gangbusters. They had two blown catches, and then the most vanilla fourth down play you could ever imagine. So that's just typical Philadelphia this year. Anyway, they're done. I'm looking forward to the Hawks. Good thing for me, you know, I've got dual allegiance, right? I'm a Eagles fan and a Hawks fan. Guaranteed this year to have an NFC West team in the championship game. Even if the Hawks lose, it'll still be the Niners or the Rams. So the NFC West is looking great. And unlike last year, where the NFC North had three teams that were all in, and they were all, I hate to say terrible, but none of them really were dominant last year. They were good records, but they weren't dominant teams. They all lost in the first round. This year, all of us made it through. So that game, you know what's funny? I was watching last night's game. That I'm not a huge fan of Drake May. I'm not a believer in Drake May, I guess, but he looked good last night. He looked really, really good last night. So Ole Miss kind of got robbed. Yeah, I mean, and that whole situation, Ken, we could have long talk about that whole thing with Lane Kiffin, and again, that's part of the NIL thing, right? Part of the NIL problem is reasons why he left, the reasons why he couldn't stay to keep coaching, the reasons why it's a whole mess down there. But yeah, that team was super impressive all year, and I'll tell you, I don't think anybody. It doesn't matter if they got robbed or not. Nobody's beating Indiana. Indiana looks like world beaters. They could. Indiana is one of those teams that's like, I hate to say team of destiny, but damn, they are good. So yeah, looking forward to college championships too next week. So all right, let's get to it here. Let's do some E-letters today. Today's going to be the gambling series, ABCs. We're going to hit the letter E today, but before we do, your daily reminder of why I spend the time I spend to do these shows, right? It takes me hours to research and figure scripting out and bullet points and that kind of stuff to talk through. And it's because this is the truth, right? The casinos exist only for two reasons. One is primarily to bankrupt you. That's their number one mission in life. You are their customer, unlike the Target or the Fred Meyer or the Kroger or the Acme or the Sears. Those businesses don't exist to bankrupt their customers. Casinos do. They only make money if you lose everything. That's it. That's how they work, right? And if you get good at it, they will ban you for it. You'll not be able to sports bet. You'll not be able to play blackjack and count cards. So that's just the way that it is, man. They're just, it's that kind of business, right? So what I want to do, hold on, I got another problem here. What I want to do to say that this is the only way to win, right? These aren't even ways to win. These are ways to mitigate some of the power that casino has over you. And again, a lot of it comes down to your mindset, right? How you handle your bankroll, how you understand what your bankroll's job is. How you view risk, if you understand your own risk profile. Can you identify opportunities? Do you have discipline to execute? Do you make and stick to goals? And do you keep your emotions out of it? That's the biggest thing, right? These are so important. The strategy is one thing, the mindset, kind of how you wrap it all together, but really it's all about understanding kind of you as a whole thing, right? So with that said, let's get into the ABCs of gambling, and we're going to do about 4 of these a week. Monday through Thursday, we'll do a letter E, F, D, and G this week, or E, F, G, H this week, sorry. And then we'll do Friday follows, we'll have a little bit of fun. But today we're going to be on the letter E, which is one of the math episodes. It's not super mathy, but I know y'all like, God, math again, my favorite thing, right? But here's the thing. Math isn't what's beating us. It kind of is, but you already know this. The house has an edge. You already know the odds are not in your favor. And that's not news. None of that is, right? What's beating us, I think, is the gap between what you know and what you do. It's the emotions that override strategy, right? The ego that keeps you at the table too long. The lack of a system that would protect you from yourself in some degrees, right? Today we're going to cover one number that governs every bet you make. We're going to look at why safe bets aren't as safe as we think. We're going to name the 2 enemies in your head that cost you more than the house edge does. And we're going to give you, hopefully, a nice tool, something practical to fight back with. And so this episode is where math meets psychology and where knowing meets doing. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. So for the letter E, one of the bullet points we're going to talk about today is the expected value, which is, when you win the right amount of times, you still pay a tax. Right? You're still losing money. And I think that people throw around, these are negative EV games. And I'm not sure people understand what they say, what that means when they say it. They kind of know it, but we're going to talk through it today. I want to get into even money bets. And they're safe bets, but they're a slow bleed. And so you need a plan to play them properly, I believe. We'll talk, of course, about emotions, your feelings. Don't read books. The urge to deviate. You got to learn how to stay the course. And I think your emotions have a big way. We'll talk about your ego, the costs, how much that cost you in dollars, and how we want to check that at the cage. Of course, we'll talk about exit strategies, having a plan for leaving that you should set up before you sit down, understand what your exposure is. It's gambling by design. It's a dial that we actually can control a little bit. And we're going to close out talking about the envelope systems. There's a couple of them out there. We'll talk about how they work in the micro and in the macro. So there it is. There's the preview for E, and we'll just I didn't press the button. See, I didn't press the button to show you what's going on. Look at all the fun words we have. All right, let's do it. Let's get into expected value. So you can win exactly as often as you ought to and still walk away a loser. Matter of fact, you will. If you win as often as you should at a casino, you will walk away a loser. And it's not bad luck. It's negative EV. And it works out exactly the way it's designed. It's part and parcel to how the casinos work, right? The expected EV, I think it's the single most important number in gambling. It's the average outcome if you repeated the same bet thousands of times. This is that law of large numbers thing. It's how the casino makes their money. For almost every bet in the casino, that number is negative for you. And it's not because you lose more often than you should. It's because you get paid less than you deserve when you win. So let's look at how this works. And I always use the same example because it's an easy one to see. We'll take the place bet on the number 5. The true odds of rolling a 5 are 3-2. It's 6-4. There's 6 ways to roll a 7. There's 4 ways to roll a 5. You can reduce it down to 3-2. That means that a fair payout, based on odds, would be $15. You bet 10, you should get $15. That's the way. Yeah, there's buffering, Ken. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why we're having issues today. I think it's just the new system. It's all, like I said, it's all jacked up, so I'm not sure what's happening. Anyway. A place bet 5 for $10 should pay 15. It pays 14, right? You're getting $1 shorted for what you should get paid. And it doesn't seem like a lot. But if you play it out over the 36 rolls, okay, the complete cycle, let's say that happens like it ought to, right? The 5 will hit 4 times. The 6 or the 7 will hit 6 times. You'll win 4 at $14. you'll win $56. But at true odds, you should have won $60. Okay? You won the right number of times, but you came up $4 short because you're still going to lose the $10 6 times. You're going to lose 60, you're going to win 56. In a fair game, it's fair. It's 50-50 or even odds. You would win, $15 4 times. You should win 60, you should lose 60. In reality, you win 56, you lose 60. So the house, that's negative EV. That's what negative EV is. The house doesn't need you to lose. Okay, process that. They need you to just pay you a little bit less every time you win. This is negative expectation. It's not about you having bad odds. The odds are what the odds are. You multiply that $4 by thousands, instead of it being, 10 outcomes, 4 times that you won, imagine it's 400 or 4,000 or 4 million times that the 5 rolls and they pay the person $1 left. Okay? This is how the casinos get built. This is where the business model comes from, right? And here's the thing. Understanding EV doesn't mean you avoid negative bets, because almost every bet in the house is negative, right? You'd never play anything. But knowing the number, right, you know what you're paying, and now you can decide if entertainment value that you're getting at the casino is worth the cost of going there. You might stop being surprised by the fact that you're doing well but still losing, right? The house doesn't need you to lose. They just need to pay you less than you deserve when you win. That's EV. And it's working on every single bet that we make. So, number 1. Number 2, I want to talk about even money bets. Where we go? Whoa, back. What is happening? I'm telling you, I'm sorry about the screen. Everything is jacked up today. What is going on here? Everything is wrong. I'm not sure what's going on here. Everything is wrong. All right. Well, it's not going to. Clearly, my slides are not working. One of these days, I'm going to. I guess I didn't rebuild it good enough. All right, we'll talk about even money bets here. I don't know why the slide's not showing you the right words, but anyway, let's. This is one of the things that I get a lot of heat over, and I really want to lean into it today. Red or black, pass, don't pass, player, banker, they're all the same bet. Effectively, they feel safe because you're winning about half the time, right? You're also bleeding it out so slowly you won't notice you're broke. The even money bets, the ones that pay 1-to-1, they're kind of safe, right? They're low volatility bets. You win some, you lose some, you stay for hours, and it feels like you're holding your own. Somebody wrote me a thing in chat the other day, and it said, why don't you just teach people to play the pass line with max odds? You can play forever that way because the odds are free and the edge goes down. And I'm like, my goal isn't to play forever though, right? Like the low house edge plays, I get it. Right, the EV on those bets, like we just talked about, is so much less. You can play for longer, right? The amount that the house bleeds you for is less. They're low volatility, but there's also no opportunity there. That safe is not profitable, right? You're treading water while the current kind of pulls you in, right? So to me, and these things aren't going away either. Flat betting, even money, is a grind to zero, right? You're flipping coins where the house wins 51% of the time or 52% of the time, right? You need a strategy that captures winning streaks, some aggression, some progression, or you're going to die on the vine. You're just going to slowly bleed it out, right? And again, the progressions, positive or negative. Ken did a whole series on positive progressions. If you don't play that way, if you just flat bet forever, you're for sure going to tie with that slow bleed down. If you have some kind of a progression, when a streak comes, you'll take care of it, right? You'll be ahead. There was a study done, I've talked about this before, where they developed the Kelly criterion, right? It was basically a coin flip game. They gave a bunch of college students, this math problem. They said, look, we're going to flip a coin 100 times, okay? And the first experiment was, it's going to be an advance 50-50. It's going to be 50-50. We're going to flip 100 coins. You have $100. Okay, bet the money the way that you want to. Of course, the people who bet $1 every time, they tie, right? They're not making any money at all. There was all sorts of progressions tested because the coins don't go head, tail, head, tail, head, tail. There's runs. And it's the way that you bet during the runs that makes it make sense. Some teams turned $100 into $300. Some teams turned $100 into 0. based on how they bet. Same betting is a guaranteed tie, right? Or in our case, with the negative EV of bleed. So you got to find ways to account for that, okay? And know the numbers. Know the numbers, because all the 50-50 bets aren't the same. I say they're the same in air quotes. They're not the same. Blackjack with basic strategy has about a half a percent house edge. It's about a 50-50. Baccarat, banker player, seems like it's 50-50. There's about a 1%, a little more than 1% house edge on that. A little your negative EV. The pass line in craps, 1.4, a little worse than Baccarat. Okay, red or black on roulette table, single zero, 2.7, double zero, 5.26. The same thing, right? Red or black with a zero is worse for you than player banker with a tie in the commission. So if you're going to play a 50-50 game, if you're looking for the lowest possible house edge, you would never play roulette, red or black. You should never play Baccarat, for that matter. Go play blackjack with the lowest possible house edge, right? That's what you're really after. And play it with a system of progressions and a little bit of aggression that takes care of the streaks for you, that can survive the shitty ones and capitalize on the good ones, right? If you're going to play coin flips, know how you're flipping them, okay? And again, we'll talk about Kelly in the K's, but that's a great little system that if you know the outcome, and in some cases in these games you do know the outcome, you can really capitalize on it. So there's your even money bet thing. Just please don't flat bet yourself into oblivion, all right? Now, for emotional control, I want to talk about it like this, right? We know, most of us do, right? We know strategy cold. We've read books, but we make, and I do this too, expensive mistakes because emotions don't read the books, right? And your emotions are betting with your money. And every emotion at a table has a corresponding bad decision attached to it. If you think about it, every one. Like, think about fear, right? Fear makes you stand on a 16 in blackjack against a 10 because busting feels worse than bleeding it out, right? I'd rather just not take the shot. There's a whole system in blackjack, by the way, called no bust blackjack. That's 100% fear-based system. It's all based on the fear of busting. The whole thing, your house edge, your negative EV goes from 0.5% to 5% when you play that way. It just does, right? Doesn't matter that hitting is the mathematically correct play. You know it, right? Your gut says, I'm not going to bust, and your gut doesn't get the EV, right? Greed makes you press when you should be collecting. You're up 300, you're feeling great, you let it ride, and you watch everything go away, chasing the 400. Frustration, poster child for frustration, right, is the bet size creep that follows a bad beat, right? You're playing $25, you took a tough loss, now you're playing $50 to get it back. Now again, I'm not talking about laddering where you're planning the step on the losses. I'm talking about getting pissed off because you lost and shoving all in, or rail dumping, as we say, right? That's your frustration placing the bets, not your brain, right? Excitement, the feeling lucky, right? That surge of you abandon everything, right? The cards are good, the table's hot, it's all good. You go off your plan because why? Because you feel like it, right? How many times have we seen players have so much money on the table and they just will not pull it back, regress, or even lock it up? They're chasing a purple. I've done, matter of fact, the last time I played craps, I said, I'm getting a purple chip today. I'm going to get a purple chip. And like ahead of time, I let my emotions jump in ahead of time, right? It happens to everybody. Here's what you got to understand. Emotional decisions, they feel right in the moment, right? But that makes them dangerous. They feel like insight. They feel like instinct. But your feelings don't have information that the math doesn't have, that the math has, right? They're just dressed up noise. So how you fight it, you frame it. You give it a name. When you feel the urge to deviate, get off, right? To bet bigger, stay longer, whatever, make a play that's not in your plan, stop and ask yourself, what emotion's driving this decision, right? Is it fear? Is it greed? Is it frustration? Giving it a name, by the way, can remove some of its power. Giving it a name gives you a tool to stop and go, no, I'm not doing that. Right? Pre-commit to your bet sizes, pre-commit to your exit strategy, make decisions before your emotions have a chance to jump in and help you or hurt you in making a bad decision. All right. The next thing you want to do is treat the urge to deviate as a warning sign, not permission. When everything in you wants to abandon your plan, that's exactly when you need to pull yourself back and stay course, right? So emotions, the decisions, they feel right. They feel right, but they're almost never correct, right? The urge to deviate, again, it's the signal to stay on track. It's not your permission to jump away and abandon it. So emotions are, I think, the tool that the casino has that they don't even have to employ. It just is. But we just have emotions and we do the wrong thing, right? And ego kind of dovetails with that, right? The house has you dollars on the dollar, and it's not really even close, right? Talk about some of the most expensive leaking in gambling. It's not the house edge. It's not bad luck. It's ego. And the casino, like I said, doesn't have to work for that. You just give it to them for free, right? Ego shows up when you're playing stakes you can't afford because you want to look like a tough guy, right? You should be at a $5 table, but you're playing $25. You should be at the $25 table. You're playing at the black chip table. Why? Because the green chips feel small, because someone might think you're a tourist, right? I know YouTubers who play at more bets than they should, high-level bets than they ought to. Why? Because they're fucking YouTubers. I've seen people go out there who I know don't have the money to play at the levels they play, but they do it anyway. Because God forbid somebody sees them betting at a $5 table. Truth, right? It's what happens. Ego also shows up after a loss. You're down, you should leave. But walking away feels like you're admitting defeat, so you stay. You chase. You turn a manageable loss into disaster because your ego can't handle being a loser. Sometimes we're all losers. It just happens, right? Ego shows up in your decisions. You don't use a strategy card at blackjack when you're learning because it looks like you're an amateur. Even though it would save you money, you're not going to pull out. And here it is. And by the way, I have them. The blackjack cards, right? I have them. I have like 10 of them right here, right? That's a little thing I do when I'm having my coffee. I run the card. I run the card. Right? When I was learning, I ran the card at the table. Or I'd ask the dealer. Or the player next to me who I knew was playing it right. But you don't want to look like an idiot. So you don't do that and you give it away. Right? You have pretend expertise. Because you don't want to admit ignorance. And that feels worse than paying for it. Right? The most expensive sentence in gambling is, I know what I'm doing. And the second most expensive words in gambling are, I'm not leaving down, right? Think about that, right? So let's reframe it. Confidence and ego are not the same. Confidence, play your game at your level. It makes decisions based on your bankroll, your skills, and your plan. Ego, you're playing the game at somebody else's level. It makes decisions based on how you want to be perceived. And the fix is simple in concept, right? It's tough to execute, but be honest with yourself. Play the stakes your bankroll supports. Use a strategy card till you don't need it. If you have to write down your craps move, write down your craps move. Walk away when you're losing without making it mean something about you. Everybody loses, right? I used to tell my baseball player, but I coached baseball for years, and here's a good takeaway for you, right? Everybody write this sentence down, okay? I told my baseball players this for years, when they were 7 years old to when they were in college. Failure is an event, not a person. Gambling, same thing. Losing is an event, does not make you a loser. And your ego wants to fight you that way, right? Your ego will not let you accept that. That's the reality. Check it at the cage. Don't give the casino anything extra. Don't give them extra edge, especially an edge they didn't have to work for. All right, let's talk quickly about exit strategy. Everybody has a plan for how they're going to play. Most people don't have a plan for how they're going to say goodbye. And that's why the casino keeps your money. Okay? We research games, we practice basic strategy, we have our bankroll set, we have a plan how we're going to play. Now tell me, do you have a plan to leave? Most players don't have one. They figure they'll know when it's time. They'll feel it, right? Oh, my win goal is 500, but if I'm doing great, right, there's always this but if. And that's exactly why they give money back. Why a lot of wins turn into losses, right? An exit strategy has 3 parts to it, okay? And you decide all of them before you sit down. Not at the table, before. First, loss limit. At what point do you walk away down? Okay? Some people like me have a loss limit of 0. If you have a ladder strategy, your loss limit has to be 0. Know that going in though, right? If you have a ladder and a loss limit, you don't obey your loss limit, you're going to for sure lose. You cannot let your loss limit scare you. If you buy in for 500, is it when you're down 2, 3, the whole thing? Pick your number. If you have to, write it down. Your second number, your win goal. At what point do you lock and leave? At the least, you better lock, right? Double your buy-in, 50%. It's not about leaving money on the table. It's about taking money off the table. That's the difference there, right? When you look at our app that we're building, right? The Casino Quest Nexus app. One of the features I built into the games, all the games, has a lock feature. So as you're playing blackjack, for example, let's say you buy in for $1,000. Let's say you're up $200. There's a lock button. You can press a button called lock. It'll give you your bankroll, your $1,200. You can say, I'm going to lock up $1,100. And it puts all your chips off to the side, and it puts a big old lock icon on. You can't play them. Now you're playing with $100. The game forces you to learn how to lock money up, teaching you this exact skill. Lock my money. Lock my money. You have to lock it up. If you want to play with excess, but lock up what your goal was. The third thing to remember about exit strategies are time limits. At what point do you leave regardless of where you're at? 2 hours, 3 hours, 4, whatever. It matters. Why does it matter? We talked about it before. Fatigue is real, and it makes every decision you make worse. Okay? Remember this. The version of you at the table is not qualified to make exit decisions. That version's tired. That version of you is emotional, tilted or greedy or chasing or riding some high. That version of you will negotiate, rationalize, and make exceptions to your own rules. You have an exit strategy, you're not making, when you don't have an exit strategy, you're not making a decision in the moment, right? You're following a rule that you made before you got there. So honor yourself, honor the commitments that you made to yourself. That's a really important thing. Exit strategy seems easy, but it's really, really tough because, again, you're always at war with the casino. You're always at war with yourself, right? I think this is a great quote here, Daryl. Play the math. Leave your hunches at home, right? Hunches have cost people homes. I'm telling you right now. Great comment. Thank you for that. All right. Next up, exposure. We've talked about this way in the past. It's been a while. Okay, you brought 500, but you're risking 5,000, and that's your exposure. And once you really understand that concept, you'll stop gambling blind and start gambling by design. And again, this is also feeds that house edge, right? Let's talk about a number that you really never calculate, which is this exposure number. Okay, your $500 was your buy-in, and that's what you're putting at risk. Your household money. Let's just say this: your household money, your gambling budget. Yeah, it's exposed for $500. Okay, but if you're betting $25 a hand, or a roll, or whatever it is, 60 hands an hour, and you're there for hours, you're putting 4 hours worth. You're putting $6,000 into action. Think about that. That's your exposure. And the house edge on every single bet is that 1% or whatever it is. The casino's making a fortune off of you. Okay? That's your exposure. That's your total amount of risk across all your decisions. Your buy-in is what's in your pocket. Your exposure is what you're actually gambling. How much money you're putting out there. They're very, very different numbers. And here's where it gets interesting. It's not just something that happens to you. It's a variable that you can control. You have a dial. You understand how it works. You can engineer your sessions instead of just seeing what happens out there, right? And I always give you like this triangle. There's 3 points to it, right? There's time, there's exposure, and then there's the wax, right? Wax being the number of decisions or a number of things that can beat you. Like we talked about the 5 earlier, right? On a 5, you had 6 wax, right? Versus the 4 ways to win. You can optimize for a couple of these. You can never optimize for all of it. The casino's optimized for all of it. You can't, right? You want to spend less time at the table, you need bigger bets and fewer decisions, right? But that means more exposure per bet. More money at risk as you're going through this process, right? You want less total exposure? Okay, make smaller bets. But that means more wax or more decisions. Time grinding you out at the house, right? You want fewer wax? Look at the roulette table, right? These guys play they 97% coverage. Great. That's awesome, right? You cover all the outcomes, right? But the higher exposure of money and the relative small size of the wins, again, bleed you out. I've seen roulette players have $150 out there, and the best thing that happens is they win 5 or 7 on some of these things. $150 to win 7, but there's only one number that beats you. Okay, good for you. You're going to do that all day long, and when the 150 loss comes in, it will. Your entire to grind. 10 chances for the house edge to beat you, right? If you're betting smaller, it's 10 times the win that you need versus the other person, right? So the question I have for you here is, do you know what you're optimizing for? Is it time? Is it exposure? Is it a wax? Pick your priority and design your play around it, okay? Exposure doesn't just happen to you, right? It's a dial that you control a little bit, right? So control what you're optimizing for, or the casino will do it for you, all right? Let's close here with envelopes. I say it like this: willpower is a resource, okay, but it runs out at some point, right? Again, we talk about emotion, we talk about all these things that kind of help you make bad decisions. Willpower is one of the things that you have at your control, but it runs out. An envelope system doesn't get tired. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't lie about what's left, right? And so one of the simplest, most powerful bankroll tools we have is an envelope system. And some players swear by this. A lot of players have never heard of it. Some players go, who cares? Okay, let's look at it like this, a basic version. This is like the micro version, okay? You're going to Vegas for 3 nights. You got $1,500, okay? Before you leave, divide it into envelopes. You can make them $500 per day, or $500 envelopes that each of those is a short session during the day, or whatever, $250, however you want to divide that up across your 3 days. You put money in the envelope. This is the rule. When an envelope is empty, that session is over. Not mostly over, not unless I feel lucky, it's over. If you're going to do $500 a day, $250 and $250, and you burn $250, that's it. Your second $250 that you planned for later, that's when that comes out. It comes out later, not right now because, oh God, I'm in the zone. No, right? In the micro, you don't go to the ATM. You don't borrow tomorrow's envelope. You don't borrow tonight's envelope. You're done. That's the way envelopes work. And if it's stuffed, great. Put it back in the safe and leave it there. You won for the day. That's it. If I had 2 envelopes for today, $250 and $250, and my first $250 wins me $500-$600, that second $250 doesn't have to go out there. You don't have to put it back out there. The envelope helped you save your money. Put it back in the safe. Why does it work? Because the physical reality of a thing that you have in your hand, it's harder to argue with than your mental accounting. You can negotiate with yourself. I said I'd only spend $300, but let's grab a little more, right? An empty envelope is empty. Doesn't negotiate. It's nothing in there. It just sits there. It's empty. You got to confront it. Like, look, I got no more money. I can't reach for any more. You have to stick with it, right? Variation of that is an empty envelope. Bring all your 3 for the day or whatever. Bring an empty one for profits. And every time you're up, let's say your morning session, you took your $500 envelope. You won $600. Put the $500 back in the envelope. Put the $100 in the empty envelope. Right? Replace your envelope with what you won back. Put your profit somewhere else. Okay? At the end of your session, let's just say my envelope was $500. I went down or I lost $100. Whatever. Time for lunch. Time for the show. Cool. Put the $400 back in the envelope. That envelope is done. Next envelope for the next day. Cycle through them. Those envelopes don't get reopened until you're back home again. It's not gambling anymore. That's won money or saved money. It's protected money. Now, you want to look at the advanced level, the pro level. Let's macro that up, right? Let's have envelopes not just for sessions or for a trip. Have an envelope system that's your entire financial architecture. This is how I operate things, okay? I know where every dollar belongs before I win it, okay? I have multiple bank accounts. I actually gamble from multiple accounts. I have one called Master. I call it the 401g account. That's my total dedicated gambling fund. It's my war chest. I have a profits account. If I win in a session, my Master bankroll gets replaced with what I withdrew from it, and my profits go into a different account. Unless I'm trying to build the bankroll up, the Master chest, right? If I'm not in builder mode, I replace my Master with what I withdrew, and then I put money somewhere else in a profit account, not unlike the empty envelope in the safe at my casino trip. Okay? It's how I win, right? I don't have winning sessions. I extract money from my wins and I never put it back in, right? I have another account, right, called excess. Ken calls it excess. You can call it profits to play. In other words, my master bankroll gets replaced. I stash some profits if I have what I would consider extra. Great session. I have an excess account. That's fun money. That's when I go to Seattle in a couple of weeks to play with my friends, and I just don't care. That's lighted on fire money. That's going to be when I play the ATS all night long. That's what that money's for. That's not my master bankroll. It's not funding trips. It's not trying to build anything. That's literally light on fire money. Okay? My fourth account is my expenses account. I always carve off a little bit of my wins, even for my losses, right? If I bought in for $1,000 and I'd lose a couple $100, I still put $500 back in master and a couple $100 if I have to in my expenses account because I got to get home, right? That pays for planes, that pays for Ubers, pays for food. I always account for that, right? It's a financial architecture. It's not just envelopes at the casino, but envelopes at the casino work in the small and in the big, in the micro and in the macro. When you have structure, every session forces a decision. What percentage stays in the game? What percentage goes into my real life? What percentage goes where? You have to confront that every time you play. And again, I hate to keep being a dead horse. The app that I'm building has this built into it. When you color up out of a game, you ATM machine yourself into the blackjack game. When you are done playing, it makes you decide where's your money going. You don't just leave the game. It says you leave the game and I'm going to deposit my money back to one of these accounts. You're always accountable. And the question I think asked and answered over the years consistently is the difference between somebody who gambles and somebody who builds something from gambling. What's the difference? I think amateurs try and protect their money. Professionals organize their money. And again, not to say there's professional gamblers, but you can act like a professional with your money and organize it, right? Whether using actual envelopes or bank accounts, whatever works for you, this forces you to be a pro with your money, even if you're a recreational player, okay? And there it is. I think you want to build a system where every dollar belongs, where you know where your dollars belong before anything goes out there. All right? Yeah, Dave Ramsey for Gambler. That's a great way of saying that, Dr. S. Appreciate that. That's exactly the way I'm a Dave Ramsey disciple, and I think this is a way, when I started embracing this system, it changed my personal life. It's changed my gambling life in a big way over the last 15 years or so. All right. So that's it. Let's see. Oh, I didn't push the number. So there, I didn't push the thing. So sorry about that. All right. Let's bring it home. Today, we started with expected value. The truth that the house doesn't need you to lose. They just pay you less when you win. That's the tax. It's built into every single bet we have. We talked about even money bets, the safe ways to play that feel like treading water, but actually are a slow bleed, right? The same one-to-one payout also varies wildly in terms of that cost between the games. Know which coin you're flipping. If you're going to play a 50-50 game, do not play roulette, for example. We named your two biggest enemies, emotions and ego. Emotions make you deviate. Ego keeps you at the table when you shouldn't be there, playing the wrong thing at the wrong amounts. Together, they cost you more than the house edge ever will. But now, hopefully, you know how to spot them, and you have strategies to fight back. We built your defenses up, I think, with an exit strategy. You decide that before you sit down. You don't negotiate when you're tired and tilted. And the exposure triangle, time, exposure, financial, and wax. So you can design a session instead of surviving sessions. And we left you with envelopes. The simple system that doesn't get tired, doesn't negotiate, forces you to organize your money like a pro. And the thread that runs through it all, the math is knowable. Your enemies are nameable. And the systems that protect you are buildable. Okay? You walked in knowing the house has an edge. You're walking out now knowing how to stop giving them a bigger one. So, that is, let's see, I'm going to get to here. That's what I got for you today. Again, my apology, I'm not sure why these things are going away. My apologies for the weird jumpiness with the feed. I don't know what's happening. Again, I just reinstalled my entire computer and all the software. So there are settings that I have had before that help mitigate some of this stuff. Hopefully, now that I've seen the feed, I have some things to fix. So, all right, let me go and check questions real quick. I have a couple minutes here. Just a couple. Let me check for questions. Ken says escape. I think exit strategy sort of covers that one. I'm not seeing any other Q comments. Let's see. Dr. S, I love this one. I expect to win. I love that. But you're disappointed. Right? It happens. Disappointments happen. I should have made disappointment a D word, actually. Yeah. Don't expect to win. Be happy when you do. That's the thing, right? And here's the thing. I plan for winning. I plan to win. I do expect to win, but I don't expect, but I plan for a win. When I win, this is what's going to happen. I also know when I lose, this is going to happen. And I have a complete plan for it all the way through. So there you go. I'm out of here, guys. You all have a great Monday. I will do some tweaks to the system here, and hopefully by tomorrow I'll have some of the kinks knocked out. In the meantime, have a great day. God bless y'all. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.